Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:07. It's O'Connor and Company, and a great welcome to all of our new listeners in America's 51st state, Venezuela. Just kidding. Sorta. What a weekend. We'll catch you up to date on everything. And if you were just getting back into the swing of things after the 2 weeks of holidays of Christmas and New Year's, well, we've got a lot to catch up on, don't we? That's fine. We've got help. 7:05, we'll talk to Joe DeGenova because, this was illegal. Everything that we did was illegal. No, it wasn't. Joe DeGenova will explain that. 7:35, Robert Spencer, author of the book Intifada on the Hudson, The Selling of Zohran Mamdani. All about the brand new mayor in New York, but is also the Persian street erupting over there in Iran. 8:05, Matt Schlapp, chairman of the American Conservative Union. CPAC has been leading the charge on some huge Latin American initiatives, so we'll get his thoughts on the Venezuela action. And at the same time, at 8:35, we'll talk to General Jack Keane about the military feat that was the removal of President Maduro and his capture. What an amazing, amazing weekend. We got a lot to catch up on, but first and foremost, Julie Gunlock. It's your first broadcast of 2026. May I be the first to say Happy New Year? I guess I'm not the first to say Happy New Year, am I?
No, you're not, but certainly excited to be here this morning. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. How was it?
It was great. I mean, I was asleep by 8.
Yes, that's my girl. You made it to 8. Actually, I made it later. I got to 10.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
I
think my kids were a little bit annoyed with me because, I had champagne for Prosecco for me and my husband. I had some sparkling apple cider for them. I always have these really.
Let's just be clear. I go Italian. I don't do any of that French stuff.
It's just no. It's
what?
Cheaper.
No cava? What?
no. It's cheaper. And I always have these really good intentions, and then. And then I'm so tired. So anyway, but my kids are never surprised.
Yeah.
So then the next day.
Wait. You're going too fast. I'm curious. And I spoke with Patrice on Friday, but her kids are all sort of little.
Little, yeah.
I know what I did on New Year's Eve when I was like your son's age, when I was like 17, because I couldn't go out. I couldn't drink. I had to stay home anyway for the most part. So it was New Year's Rockin' Eve with Dick Clark. When MTV's, we had MTV, which MTV is gone now forever.
I know.
And then you would flip around to like, okay, what's Johnny Carson doing at New Year's? Even though knowing that all those shows were pre-taped, what do your kids do for New Year's?
We kind of have a man cave in the basement,
okay.
the basement of our house. They played a lot of video games. They ran around the house. They, would go upstairs and.
So at midnight, did you wake up from your slumber because you heard people screaming? And did people in your neighborhood open up the window and scream?
Oh God, no! No! We're in the suburbs. No one does that. But it was. I had peeled myself off the couch at some point, probably around 9, and
so you didn't go to bed at 8:00. You passed out on the couch at 8:00.
I just conked out. Yeah, not passed out, just conked out. And I wish I'd passed out. And then everybody followed after that. I actually have no idea what they did, but I know that they played their video games and they, and then Darren also, by the way, conked out in the other room watching, wow. I'm sure, a game or something. So anyway, we are very boring. What did you? But you only lasted till 10.
Yeah, no, we didn't. We were even more boring. But I expect more from you.
Well, also I had the week off. You didn't.
That's true. We were waking up the next morning. All right, so you made it through. And then what was your New Year's morning like? Anything? Did you make crumpets for everybody or scones?
Yeah, of course. I made breakfast for everybody. But the big deal, and we've done this a couple years in a row now, the kids always want something kind of ambitious. They prime rib. And for a couple years, I've done beef Wellingtons. And 2 years ago, I did a very big beef Wellington, with the Chateaubriand cut.
Yeah, that's the classic beef Wellington that you then
the center
sliced.
Cut.
Yeah.
Yes, basically the filet mignon roast.
Of the beef tenderloin, yeah.
Yes, and it's called the Chateaubriand, and you wrap that in. Oh my gosh! But there's so much more. There's this mushroom duxelle you have to make. You have to wrap it in prosciutto. Anyway, so this year I made individual ones from 8-ounce filet mignon steaks, which I seared. And then I did everything that the recipe calls for. I did the mushroom and shallots. Wrapped it in, wrapped it in prosciutto, then refrigerated it for an hour, and then wrapped it in the pastry, refrigerated. Anyway, they turned out marvelous. I didn't tweet a picture. I'm not sure I even sent you a picture.
You didn't tweet it, but you texted me a picture.
Oh, I did.
And it looked like you worked in Hell's Kitchen with Gordon Ramsay screaming down your neck. It looks exactly like those little. I've always wanted one of those, and I guess
they
you
were
can actually
really
get
beautiful.
They're
my
in the
kids
Hell's
love
Kitchen
them.
at the DC Wharf.
They are incredible, and I was so mad because we were all so excited that we sat down and began to eat. And the really big reveal is, did you manage to get a medium rare on that filet while still baking the crust? And you have to bake the pastry throughout. You can't have, because some people, the outside is cooked, but the inside of the pastry is raw. Mine turned out perfect. I only have one mangled picture of my husband's, after he'd eaten 3/4 of it. I thought, oh my God, I got to get a picture of this. So they did end up being perfect, but there's not really a great...
It's a great way to launch your new year.
Yes, it was very fun. Yes. But that's an exhausting process. So that was it for me. That was all I did.
And it was an exciting New Year's Day also because Indiana beat Alabama, representing the Big Ten, as Ohio State is out of it now. Not that I want to dwell on that. And we're down to 4 teams in the Final Four. Actually, there are 2 Big Ten teams in the Final Four, but the way the bracket works out, they're both playing each other, Indiana and Oregon, this next week.
Yes, well, I will say football was on in the background.
There was a lot of football
the entire time. I was cooking.
And congratulations to the Navy midshipmen who won the Liberty Bowl on Friday, thus capping an 11-win season, coming back-to-back from last year's 10-win season, then also back-to-back Commander-in-Chief trophy, and 2 bowl wins. Last year, I think it was the Armed Services Bowl, and this year it was the Liberty Bowl against a Big 12 team. This is the greatest 2-year span in Navy football history, and that's quite a long history. It's pretty impressive, especially considering there's no transfer portal for them. There's no NIL money. It's the same four-year students that they have all 4 years, and they graduate all of their players, and they end up getting commissions into the Navy and the Marine Corps. Compared to the rest of college football, which basically looks like a pro concern at this point, that's the story of the year, that they still do it the old-fashioned way and graduate their kids, and all their kids generally have a 3.0 or above grade point average, and they end up commissioning as military officers. And they continue to win double digits 2 years in a row. That's a phenomenal sports story.
Incredible.
If I could just throw that out there. All right. Well, then enough of your champagne and your revelry, enough of your beef Wellingtons, enough of college football. A lot happened this weekend, including the American military exercise to remove the illegitimate president of Venezuela after multiple warnings, after multiple indictments. The U.S. military went in, got their man, came out without losing one life from the U.S. military and without leaving one piece of equipment behind. It was miraculous, frankly, an unprecedented military operation. And we'll get into the details, what was said at that press conference on Saturday, and looking ahead, what's next in Venezuela for the United States of America. All that as the morning unfolds. It's 5:15.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
These final 2 weeks of the year, or technically the way it worked out this year, it's funny with the holidays hitting right on the Thursdays. Christmas on Thursday, New Year's on Thursday. It really is this last 2 weeks of December, or the last week of December bleeding into the first week of January, that sort of feel like in most cases in Washington, D.C., it's sort of a 2-week hibernation, or people either leave or they unplug. I mean, you've worked in the government or in the media or in the think tank world for your entire career here, Julie, and oftentimes it's sort of a time to retreat and unplug and not really do a whole lot. And yet the president, he had meetings with Zelensky, he had meetings with Netanyahu, he had the Venezuela operation. It was nonstop down there at Mar-a-Lago. And yet, did you notice there weren't a whole lot of people here in town like plugged in and activated and commenting on it? He sort of had a 2-week window where he could sort of get stuff done.
The thing that I love so much about President Trump, there's many things, but I love that he works so hard and just he is just the energizer bunny, to use an overused cliche.
Well, it used to mean something else with Bill Clinton.
Well, that's true. But what I love the most is that he's got a press pool who then has to show up to work.
Yeah.
And I mean, you mentioned like during the holidays, kind of a hibernation period, right?
Yeah.
And lots of Christmas parties, and you might still be present, but you're, let's just say there aren't a lot of sort of big complicated meetings during that 2 weeks, right? You kind of hold that stuff off. And I mean, my gosh, the amount of work from the journalists who cover the White House that had to be done this week. And a lot of those journalists don't like him. So I find that very amusing that they all had to get suited up, go into the White House, ask a bunch of questions, do the analysis, misinform in many cases, or become extremely frustrated, as we saw this Sunday. But that does amuse me.
Was it hard for you, knowing that you're in the media, but you knew what your days off were and what days you were going to work, right? And you worked a couple of days, but for the most part, you took some time off and spent it with your family, and God bless you, you should. But as all this stuff is going on, did you find it? First of all, you still have to stay on top of it. Well, you have no choice.
There are times sometimes where I say, no, turn it off. I actually do need to zone out.
Yeah.
This was so exciting. This was the kind of thing that made me want to get on the air, talk to you about it.
Yes.
And also listen to really good analysis of what was going on. I mean, it really was like reading, a Jack Ryan novel,
when you hear about the operation,
yes,
what we're learning
and
about
all of that, but again,
amazing.
but also just the skill and the trade crafted play here. Yeah. I mean, it was, and then there was just other things like someone posting a video of Marco Rubio at Mar-a-Lago, and he knew it was going to happen, and he's singing along to a song.
Right.
I mean, those kinds of things. I love that part of Washington, and sort of that's fun to talk about. So, yeah, I definitely felt that this weekend.
Well, and there's going to be a lot of people who are just sort of coming. I mean, they were watching the headlines. They knew stuff was going on, but they're really just, today's the day that they're back. Everybody's back today. And they're going to have to brush off the cobwebs and get right into the game here, whether they work in the government or politics or in the media. And it's sort of a funny thing to witness here when the president, as you said, he's not in pause vacation stop mode in any way whatsoever. And it's not just, let's push this trial balloon for maybe a new policy. No, these are major, major events. The operation in Venezuela has literally changed the playing field and the conversation in politics now, starting today, all the way through the midterms and into the next presidency. We've got contemporaneous ex-post social media posts and interviews from Democrats from 2, 3, 4 years ago, when the Biden administration was putting pressure on Maduro, all saying that Maduro's illegitimate, he's got to go, we have every means in our power to remove him, and should we choose to do so. They were all on board with this, and now, of course, they're all condemning it.
Shameless.
And they're all yes. Oh, it's illegal. Who are we? This is imperialism. Here we go. This is just like Iraq. And listen, there's a legitimate conversation to be had about what our role is going forward. When the president said we're going to run the place, I'm sure that sent a chill up a lot of people's spines, saying, no, let's not do that again. But for the people who were screaming for Maduro, screaming for Biden to do this very same thing 3 years ago, and now are acting like it's, a war crime, you're shameless is the word.
Yeah, one example of that this weekend, and they really caught her, Anna Navarro. I don't know her. It's like Navarro Cardenas, whatever. But she's on the View.
Is she hyphenating now?
Yeah.
Good for her. Al must be really happy with that.
Yes.
Al, well done.
She was out complaining, of course, about the Maduro situation, and someone brought up her tweets. There are, in just the last couple years, there's something like 100 tweets where she was like, "This guy's got to go. We got to get rid of Maduro. We've got to save the people of Venezuela." I mean, she didn't even bother to delete those tweets right before coming out against.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's just, of course, she's Anna Navarro, who really cares what she has to say, but it really was remarkable seeing these people just shamelessly reverse course instantly. Again, TDS, it's a powerful drug.
Here's Chris Murphy, Senator from Connecticut, on January 23rd, 2019. So do the math, nearly 5 years ago. If Trump cared about consistency, he'd make the realist case for intervention in Venezuela. Getting rid of Maduro is good for the United States, rather than trying to pretend his administration all of a sudden cares about toppling anti-democratic regimes. That was January of 2019. And, of course, yesterday, on the Sunday shows, Chris Murphy said the invasion of Venezuela has nothing to do with American security. Venezuela is not a security threat to the United States. He literally said that Venezuela was a security threat to the United States. All right, well, more and more and more as the morning unfolds. We'll recap what was said on Saturday from the president. And Secretary of State Marco Rubio is certainly having a moment right now, and we'll share what he said at the presser and everything he said on the Sunday shows and beyond, and we'll analyze our role in Venezuela going forward in many different ways, with the legal aspects with Joe DeGeneva at 7:05, and then the military aspect with General Jack Kane at 8:35. Keep it here. It's O'Connor and Company.
Well, as you know, Tim Walz, after losing the race for vice president, thank God, he decided he was going to run for re-election in Minnesota. Well, there's some rumors about the status of that race and his participation in it. So keep it here. We'll discuss. It's 5:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It is 5:37. Good morning, and thanks for tuning in to O'Connor and Company. 7:05, we'll talk to Joe DeGeneva, of course, and at 8:35, General Jack Keane on the Venezuela thing. Other guests will be joining us throughout the morning as well. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
I'm going to get right to it here because, yes, of course, there's a lot to talk about with Maduro and Venezuela. Iran, as we see the Persian Street erupt in protests, and it looks like it's for real, and they have a president who's going to support their efforts, which is nice, in President Trump. Somebody tweeted, this time there's protests in the streets of Iran, but Obama isn't there to help tamp it down.
Quash it, yeah.
Kind of what happened. But I was, only half jokingly saying over the weekend that, geez, it would be nice to, engineer some sort of regime change in Minnesota. If our argument with Nicolas Maduro is that he was a kleptocrat and in charge of a criminal operation and an illegitimate leader, bilking the American taxpayer of millions of dollars, could we look at Tim Walz, please?
Yeah.
And now we've got this. News Talk Radio 830 WCCO, which is a legitimate news radio station in the state of Minnesota, dropped this right around midnight last night. A shocking development. This is News Talk's press release or news item. Shocking development in the 2026 race for Minnesota governor, as WCCO political analyst Bloisolson has learned that Governor Tim Walz will likely announce Monday he will drop out of the 2026 Minnesota governor's race.
Wow.
Yeah. He will not seek what would be an unprecedented third consecutive term. They don't have term limits in Minnesota, but for the most part, governors have opted out of running for a third term. According to Olson, Walz will make an announcement about his political future on Monday and says he's likely made the decision to drop out of the 2026 governor's race. The apparent decision from Walz comes after President Donald Trump shared false claims suggesting Walz was behind the assassination of former Minnesota House Speaker Melissa Hortman last summer in a social media post on Truth Social. Walz wrote about that. Dangerous, depraved behavior from the sitting president of the United States. Walz has faced significant backlash himself as Minnesota has been dealing with fraud within state government and with Republicans in the state in Washington, and more recently inside the Trump administration blasting the governor for allowing it to continue. But, of course, if he did nothing wrong, he would stay in the fight, obviously.
That's right.
That nothing has stopped him from fighting these allegations up until now. Not the allegations about his connection to the political assassination of the former speaker, rest her soul, but the allegations about his involvement with, or at least complacency in the Somali fraud story. It's also said that he met with Senator Amy Klobuchar yesterday.
Yeah.
The senator from Minnesota, she might decide to jump in the race. That might be part of that meeting, is that she will leave the Senate and jump into the race for governor of Minnesota so that it stays in Democrat hands. Fascinating.
Yeah, you know what's interesting is I saw a lot this weekend from people saying, boy, this Minnesota scandal of these Somali daycare and healthcare services organizations is breaking open wider. There's more scandal to come. I saw a lot of that. Oh boy, this is just the beginning. Oh, this is worse than we thought. And I wonder if there's something coming out.
Right.
Direct evidence showing his involvement in it. And we talked about this, Larry, last time I was on. We talked about how ultimately these Somali daycare and healthcare and transportation companies making money, making millions of dollars, ultimately serve the Democrats because the Somali community largely supports Democrat Party. And, you know, it was this sort of circle of support, right? That had its own ecosystem, right? And I just wonder if there's something that's going to come out, because for him to, now he's going to blame Trump, right? You know, you saw there's a little bit of working up to this. Walz came out, his daughter came out, said, people are driving past our house saying calling my dad mean, names. Yes. So they've sort of been setting this up. He's been threatened, he's been whatever. But my theory is something's going to break, because
I think that's the only thing. Calling him names and they use that as a fundraising tool.
Yes.
They become martyred. Oh, look how mean Trump is. They love it when Trump does this to them. And when you're right. That's what they'll do. But that's not the case. You're right. The only thing that would make Tim Walz drop out of this race is his knowledge that he's about to get wrapped up in this.
Yes.
Up to his earlobes. Mm-hmm. Yesterday on Air Force One, President Trump was asked not about this story, but which is, by the way, getting widely reported. Like I said, WCCO was the first to break this. Their political analyst, who is very plugged in and well sourced in Minneapolis. But then it's been repeated on the local Fox station, in the Fox affiliate in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And it just broke last night, so it's just starting to get traction this morning. President Trump was asked on Air Force One yesterday about Tim Walz. Take a listen to what he had to say.
Man, he's a stupid man, and he's a corrupt politician. And the Somalians are ripping off our country to the tune of, looks like $19 billion, but that's only what they can find. So usually when you look at it 19, that would mean it could be 50. But the numbers are astronomical. Think of it. They have a dead country. They don't have government. They don't have anything. They don't have a military. All they do is run around shooting people and trying to capture ships. We don't let them take ships anymore.
All right. But that's what he said. I think he said he's very stupid, low IQ, stupid man. But he also said he's a corrupt politician, which, again, this President Trump says stuff all the time about politicians and about political opponents, but the fact that he dwelled on the word corrupt there suggests that maybe he has already seen some of the fruits of the FBI investigation there.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think Walz is trying to get ahead of this.
Yeah.
I think that he is probably deal making as we speak, trying to work out, look, I'll get out of the race, I'll resign, I'll take up gardening and go away, and I don't think this guy wants to go to jail, but anyway, that's my theory.
I agree. Listen, again, this is the sort of thing that starts to catch fire on social media. I was very skeptical, but when I saw WCCO in Minneapolis and the local Fox affiliate reporting this story, this has legs. We'll see today. Tim Walz expected to make an announcement today, and it is anticipated he will drop out of his bid for re-election for governor. What an astounding turn of events for the man who was the running mate for Kamala Harris just 1 year ago. It's 5:44.
Mark Levin, weekdays 6 till 9 on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
Well, New York has a new mayor, and the way these things go, I think we should expect him to be mayor for life. You know, this is what happened in Venezuela. You wonder how we got Maduro. Well, first it was Hugo Chavez. Everything was great there. The oil was flowing. Sure, there may have been some, third world banana republic stuff going on, but it's Latin America. That sort of thing happens a lot. Then they elect a Marxist, and within 10 years he seized control of all the oil fields and kicked all of the American corporations out that had actually discovered oil and drilled the oil and created the infrastructure for oil. And now, here you are 25 years after that Hugo Chavez election, and the place is a basket case. They had a dictator in charge. That's what happens when you bring in a communist. And that could potentially happen in New York City as well, I suppose, as Zoran Mamdani is now 5 days into his reign as mayor. And beyond what a radical he is, let's take a look at some of the people that he's putting in place. He has somebody called a tenant advocate. All right. This is somebody who's going to work actively on behalf of tenants, people who pay rent in New York, because they want to freeze rent, but they also, a whole lot of language was in his inaugural address about the conditions in apartments in New York. And basically, if you're not living in a 5-bedroom, multi-million-dollar penthouse in the Upper West Side, you're in a slum, apparently, in New York. And what they're going to try to do here is basically seize control of properties with multiple complaints from the tenants, and the city will seize control of it and turn it into a government housing property. That's the plan.
I think they also want to look into people who don't reside in their apartment. So someone might own a property in New York, but they don't reside there most of the year. They might live somewhere else, or they might live multiple places. And so if you're not using it, why do you need it? You hear this kind of language. They're actually doing this. They're
seizing private property. They're going to seize private property. And what they're going to do, I'll just predict it now because this is what happens. They are going to empower, first through the government itself, but then through non-government organizations that consider themselves to be, tenants' rights people and community organizers, all the stuff that Barack Obama did before he community organized our country. And they're going to have tenants flood the system with complaints, even if they're unfounded complaints. There's nothing illegal about putting in a false complaint if nobody's going to prosecute you for it. And they're not going to be looking for that. So they're going to go ahead and do that. And it'll give them the premise to come in and say, well, look at all these complaints we're going to have to take over here. That's what's going to happen here. Or these landlords are going to be so frustrated with having to keep up with all the false complaints that they'll be like, oh, screw it. Fine. We'll sell the building, or we'll just hand it over to the city, or what have you. Here is a video of, her name is Sia Weaver. She is the new director of tenant rights in New York City. Take a listen to her.
I think the reality is that for centuries we've really treated property as an individualized good and not a collective good, and we are going to transitioning to treating it as a collective good and towards a model of shared equity will require that we think about it differently, and it will mean that families, especially white families, but some POC families who are homeowners as well, are going to have a different relationship to property than the one that we currently have.
Oh, wow. I love it when they say POC. That's people of color, by the way, if you don't speak the intersectional. There you go. We're going to seize private property because it's been a weapon of white supremacy, she said. This has all been deleted, by the way, from her social media accounts, but it's all been saved by people. I
also just want to note, this is a liberal white woman. Of course. Which is the most dangerous species of human being, or type of human being on the planet, the liberal white woman. I don't know if you heard over the weekend, he also said that in his inaugural, you might have talked about this, I think this was maybe on Friday, but his inauguration, Mamdani himself said, we will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism.
Oh, yes. We talked about it quite a bit.
Did you?
Yes.
It
oh,
is
yes.
just astonishing.
Terrifying.
Terrifying.
Well, but he is exactly who he said he was. I mean, he's also, by the way, a bit of a lightweight. His statement that we'll play it a little later in the program. His statement in opposition to the actions in Venezuela.
I was briefed, and everybody on Twitter was like, "You mean you logged onto Twitter?"
Exactly. Briefed.
Yeah.
Also, by the way, he was getting kudos for retaining the commissioner of the New York Police Department, who was been a big part of Eric Adams' approach to turning the crime problem around, bringing back stop and frisk and being, very, very hard on crime. It's like, well, look, he's keeping her. Yeah, not so fast. She's been demoted, basically, downgraded the position of New York Police Commissioner, ending direct mayoral briefings. So she doesn't have direct access to the mayor anymore. She's just a cog in the machine and has no influence in the mayor's office. Those briefings existed since 9/11. Now policing is being treated basically the same as the sanitation department.
Oh, wow.
In New York. It's like public safety is no longer a problem because the era of Islamic terror threats is over, everybody. Zohran Mamdani's mayor, so the radical Islamic terrorists aren't going to do anything to New York, apparently.
And I'm sure you heard who he has selected as the chief of the fire chief.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, we'll get into that a little bit later. But apparently it's a woman who has never actually fought a fire before.
That's right. Yep. It's like putting me in charge.
A proud and defiant lesbian.
That's right.
Which, honestly, when your home is burning down, what more do you need?
Which, by the way, I mean, I was just these days.
No, by the way. No, by the way. We're done. We're out.
Oh.
It's 5:53.